You ever notice how some people speak and the entire room locks in? It's like they have this magnetic force. You just want to listen. And then there are others, they talk, they explain, they try to get their point across, but it's like they're speaking into a void. Nobody cares. Nobody remembers. Why? What's the difference? I'll tell you, it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. You can have the most brilliant ideas in the world, but if you don't deliver them in a way that grabs attention, creates connection, and drives action, you might as well be whispering into the wind. But when you master the art of speaking so people want to listen, everything changes. Your voice carries weight, your words inspire. You don't just communicate, you command attention. And one of the most powerful ways to do that, silence. Master your voice. Your voice is more than just sound. It's a tool of influence, a weapon of persuasion, and a bridge to connection. But most people don't use it that way. They speak on autopilot, never realizing that their voice has the power to captivate, inspire, and command attention, or to bore, alienate, and lose people in seconds. Think about the greatest speakers in history. They don't just say words. They use their voice as an instrument. They control their pitch, their pace, their pauses, and their energy with intention. And that's why people don't just hear them, they feel them. Let's break this down. First, there's pitch. Most people stay in the same vocal range all the time, but that's a mistake. A monotone voice makes people tune out, it lacks energy, it lacks color, and it lacks emotional depth. But when you vary your pitch, when you drop your voice to emphasize something serious or raise it slightly to add excitement, you create contrast. And contrast is what keeps people engaged. Then there's pace. The speed at which you speak can either pull people in or push them away. If you talk too fast, you overwhelm them and they check out. If you speak too slowly, they get bored. The secret is variation. If you want to create excitement, speed up. If you want to build suspense or make a point sink in, slow down. Volume is another weapon. People often think speaking louder means more power, but that's not always true. True power comes from control. If you yell all the time, people get numb to it. But if you whisper at the right moment, it forces them to lean in. If you go quiet before delivering a big line, it builds tension. The contrast between loud and soft is what makes people listen. And then there's pausing, one of the most underused but powerful tools of all. Silence is uncomfortable for most people, so they fill it with and other noise. But a well-placed pause does something incredible. It creates anticipation, it makes people sit up, it gives your words weight. Great speakers don't just talk, they command the space between words. They know when to pause for impact, when to hold silence just a little longer than expected, and when to let the words sink in. But beyond these technical elements, there's something even more important, the emotional tone of your voice. People don't remember what you say as much as they remember how you made them feel. You can say all the right words, but if your tone doesn't match the message, people won't believe you. If you want to inspire, let them hear the passion in your voice. If you want to lead, let them feel the certainty in your tone. Now think about how you sound in everyday life. Do you speak with energy and clarity, or do you mumble, rush, or sound uncertain? The way you use your voice shapes how people perceive you. If you sound uncertain, weak, or disengaged, people won't take you seriously. But if you sound strong, confident, and full of purpose, people will listen. So the next time you speak, whether it's to one person or 1,000, ask yourself, am I using my voice to command attention? Am I varying my pitch, pace, and volume? Am I pausing for impact? Am I speaking with emotional conviction? Because when you master your voice, you master influence. Drop the 7 deadly sins. If you want people to listen to you, the first step isn't about what you add, it's about what you eliminate. Because no matter how powerful your voice is, if you're guilty of the 7 deadly sins of speaking, people will tune you out before you even finish your first sentence. The first deadly sin is gossip. It might seem harmless, even entertaining, but the truth is, when you talk negatively about others, it damages your credibility. Because if you're gossiping with someone, they know you'll probably gossip about them too. People may listen in the moment, but deep down, they stop trusting you. The second sin is judgment. If you constantly criticize, condemn, or make others feel small, they will start to avoid you. No one likes to be around someone who makes them feel judged. Instead of making people feel wrong, make them feel heard. People listen to those who respect them, not those who make them feel inferior. Then there's negativity. Now, we all experience tough times, and we all need to vent sometimes, but if negativity becomes your default way of speaking, if every conversation is about what's wrong, what's unfair, or what's frustrating, people start to associate you with drain. They don't want to listen because your words suck energy instead of giving it. If you want people to engage with you, focus on solutions, not just problem. The fourth sin is excuses. People respect those who take responsibility. But if your speech is full of blame, it's not my fault, they did this to me, the system is against me, people stop taking you seriously. They see you as powerless. Instead, speak in terms of ownership, because people listen to those who are in control of their own lives. Then there's exaggeration, which is really just a fancy word for lying. When you stretch the truth too much, whether it's to make a story more dramatic or to make yourself seem more impressive, people eventually see through it. And once they doubt your honesty, they doubt everything you say. Speak truthfully because trust is your most valuable asset. The sixth sin is dogmatism, which is when opinions are presented as absolute facts. No one likes to be preached to. When you speak in a way that leaves no room for discussion or other perspectives, people shut down. The key to influence isn't forcing people to agree with you, it's inviting them into a conversation. And finally, the last deadly sin is boredom. If you don't sound like you care, why should anyone else? Enthusiasm is contagious. If you speak in a flat, lifeless way, people will tune out. But when you bring energy, passion, and authenticity, people will lean in. So the next time you open your mouth, ask yourself, am I making people feel inspired, engaged, and uplifted? Or am I pushing them away with judgment, negativity, and excuses? Because speaking isn't just about being heard, it's about being remembered. Speak with energy. Energy is everything. The way you speak determines how people respond to you. You could have the most powerful message in the world, but if you deliver it with low energy, people won't care. Energy isn't just about being loud or animated. It's about the intensity and conviction you bring to your words. People don't listen to words alone. They listen to the feeling behind the words. Think about it. Have you ever listened to someone who sounded drained, hesitant, or uninterested? What happened? You probably lost focus, you stopped caring. The content might have been good, but the delivery killed it. Now, think about someone who spoke with fire, passion, and certainty. Even if you didn't agree with everything they said, you listened. You felt their energy pulling you in. That's the power of vocal energy. Energy is not volume, it's engagement. It's being fully present in the moment. If your voice is dull, if your face is expressionless, if your body language is stiff, people will mirror that energy. They will disconnect. But if you bring a dynamic presence, if you move with intention, if your voice reflects excitement, people will mirror that too. They will lean in. But here's the secret. Energy isn't just about being hyped up. It's about alignment. Your voice, your tone, your body, and your emotions all working together to create an impact. If your words say one thing, but your tone says another, people sense the mismatch. They feel something is off. Energy must be authentic. If you are talking about something serious, your energy should reflect depth and weight. If you are talking about something exciting, your voice should reflect enthusiasm and power. Most people make the mistake of underestimating their energy levels. They think they sound fine, but in reality, they are operating at 50% of their true capability. If you were to record yourself speaking, you might be shocked at how much more intensity you actually need to keep people engaged. This is why great speakers train their voice. They practice projection, modulation, and emphasis to create a powerful presence. Energy also comes from physicality. Your posture, your facial expressions, and your gestures all communicate energy before you even speak. If you slouch, if you avoid eye contact, if your hands stay stiff at your sides, you are sending signals of low energy. But if you stand tall, make eye contact, and use open gestures, you create an inviting presence. Your body amplifies your words. The challenge is to find your peak state before you speak. If you walk into a conversation or a presentation feeling tired, distracted, or unmotivated, your energy will reflect that. But if you activate yourself, if you shift into a state of enthusiasm and certainty, people will feel it. They will be drawn to you. Speaking with energy isn't about being over the top. It's about bringing life into your words. It's about making people feel something real. It's about being so fully present, so engaged, so passionate that people can't help but listen. Because when you speak with energy, people don't just hear you, they believe you. Be clear and concise. Clarity is power. If people don't understand what you're saying, they won't remember it. If they have to work too hard to figure out your message, they'll lose interest. Speaking effectively isn't about saying more, it's about saying exactly what matters. The best communicators don't waste words. They don't ramble. They don't drown their audience in unnecessary detail. They get to the point with precision and impact. One of the biggest mistakes people make when speaking is overcomplicating their message. They use long, complex sentences when a short, simple one would do. They use jargon or vague language instead of direct, powerful words. They add filler words, like, sort of, that weaken their message. Every extra unnecessary word is a barrier between you and your listener. Think about the speeches that have changed the world. I have a dream. Yes, we can. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. These aren't long, complicated sentences. They are clear, direct, and unforgettable. The most powerful messages are often the simplest ones. A powerful way to increase clarity is to organize your thoughts in threes. People naturally remember things in patterns of three. That's why stories have a beginning, middle, and end. Conciseness is just as important as clarity. People have short attention spans. Every word you add that doesn't serve a purpose reduces impact. The best speakers remove unnecessary fluff. They replace weak words with strong ones. They don't say, I think maybe this could possibly work. They say, this will work. They don't say, it's kind of important. They say, it's essential. Every word should serve a clear function. Being concise also means cutting out redundancy. Many people repeat themselves without realizing it. They say the same thing in different ways, hoping it will make their point stronger, but all it does is weaken it. If you've already made your point, move forward. Repetition should be intentional and strategic, not accidental. Clarity and conciseness aren't just about making your message shorter. They're about making your message stronger. When you speak clearly, people understand. When you are concise, people stay engaged. When every word has purpose, your message becomes unforgettable. Use silence as a weapon. Most people are afraid of silence. They rush to fill every gap, every pause, every moment of stillness with words because they think silence is awkward. But the truth is, silence is one of the most powerful tools you have when you speak. It creates tension, it builds anticipation, and it gives your words impact. The difference between a forgettable speaker and a captivating one is often how well they control silence. Think about the most intense moments in a movie. It's not just the action, the music, or the dialogue that creates suspense. It's the silence before the explosion, the pause before the big reveal, the moment where everything goes still. That's what makes people sit up and pay attention. And the same thing happens when you speak. If you rush through your words without any pauses, your message loses its weight. But if you pause strategically, your words land with power. Silence makes people uncomfortable because they expect sound. That's why when you pause before saying something important, it forces people to focus. They lean in, waiting for what's next. Their minds become fully engaged because silence creates curiosity. And when you finally break that silence with a powerful statement, it hits harder. Most people underestimate how long they should pause. They might take a quick breath and keep going, but that's not enough to create impact. If you want silence to work, you have to hold it longer than feels natural. Just a few extra seconds of stillness can make all the difference. It creates a sense of drama. It makes people feel something. It makes them realize that what you're about to say matters. Pausing isn't just for creating suspense. It also gives people time to process what you've said. When you're speaking, you already know your thoughts. but your audience is hearing them for the first time. If you keep talking without giving them a moment to absorb, they'll start missing pieces of your message. They'll fall behind and their attention will drift. But when you pause, it gives their brains a chance to catch up. It lets your words sink in. Silence also shows confidence. Nervous speakers tend to fill every gap with filler words. Like, you know. These weaken your message. They make you sound unsure. But when you replace fillers with silence, something shifts. You sound more in control. You own the space. You give the impression that you're choosing your words with purpose instead of just trying to fill the air. Great speakers also use silence to let emotions settle. If you deliver an emotional story or a deep insight, don't rush to the next point. Let there be a beat of silence. Give people a moment to feel what you've just said. That's when the message really sticks. When you pause after an emotional moment, it gives people space to connect with your words on a deeper level. Pausing isn't about stopping. It's about controlling the flow of energy. When you pause, you build up tension. And when you start speaking again, you release it. This creates a rhythm that keeps people engaged. It makes your speech feel dynamic instead of flat. Silence is not the absence of speaking. It's a tool for amplifying your voice. It's the difference between words being heard and words being felt. When used correctly, silence isn't empty. It's full of meaning. It makes your words unforgettable. Speak to serve, not to impress. Most people approach speaking the wrong way. They think it's about sounding smart, looking important, or impressing people. But the most powerful speakers don't focus on themselves, they focus on serving their audience. They don't ask, how can I make people think I'm great? They ask, how can I give people something valuable? That shift in mindset changes everything. When you speak to impress, your energy is directed inward. You're thinking about yourself, how you look, how you sound, how people perceive you. And that creates tension. It makes you nervous because you're constantly evaluating yourself instead of connecting with the people in front of you. But when you shift your focus to serving, the nerves disappear. You're no longer trying to perform, you're trying to give. And that makes you more natural, more confident, and more engaging. Speaking to serve means understanding who your audience is and what they need. It's not about what you want to say, it's about what they need to hear. If you don't know your audience, your words won't land. The best speakers take the time to know their listeners. They understand their challenges, their desires, and their struggles. They craft their message around what will help the audience the most. One of the biggest mistakes people make when speaking is talking at the audience instead of talking to them. They go on about their own experiences, their own opinions, their own stories, without ever making it relevant to the listener. But people don't care about you, they care about how your words apply to them. If you tell a story, make sure there's a lesson they can use. If you share an idea, make sure it's something that solves a problem they have. Serving means being clear and direct. Don't make people work to understand you. If you have a message that can help them, say it in a way that's easy to absorb. Remove unnecessary complexity, make it simple, make it actionable, and make it something they can use immediately. Serving also means making your audience feel seen and heard. If you're speaking in a live setting, engage with them, ask questions, react to their energy. Make it feel like a conversation, not a lecture. When people feel involved, they stay connected. Serving means leaving people better than you found them, whether it's giving them new insights, shifting their mindset, or simply making them feel more empowered. Your goal should always be to add value. People will forget most of what you say, but they won't forget how you made them feel. They won't forget if you helped them see something in a new way. They won't forget if you gave them a tool that changed their life. The irony is, when you stop trying to impress people and start focusing on serving them, you actually become more impressive. People respect speakers who genuinely care. They listen to those who speak with purpose, passion, and sincerity. When you make it about them instead of about you, they trust you more, they engage with you more, they remember you more. Speaking isn't about ego. It's about impact. It's about making a difference. It's about stepping in front of a group of people, not to get attention, but to give them something that matters. When you shift from impressing to serving, people don't just listen, they believe. Tell stories that resonate. Stories are the most powerful way to communicate. People forget facts, they ignore data, and they tune out logical arguments, but they remember stories. Stories create emotional connections. They make your message stick. They bring your words to life in a way that nothing else can. The human brain is wired for storytelling. From the beginning of time, people have passed down wisdom through stories, not bullet points. And if you want people to listen, to care, and to remember, you need to learn how to tell stories that resonate. The best stories aren't just entertaining, they serve a purpose. Every great speaker understands that a story should do more than just fill time. It should illustrate a point, create a shift in perspective, or make a message feel personal. The stories that stick with people the longest are the ones that make them feel something. A great story doesn't just appeal to logic, it taps into emotion, makes people laugh, cry, reflect, or feel inspired. If a story doesn't evoke emotion, it won't last in people's minds. To tell a powerful story, you don't need to have lived an extraordinary life. Some of the most impactful stories are about ordinary moments that reveal something deeper. It's not about having a dramatic event to share. It's about finding meaning in everyday experiences. A conversation with a stranger, a mistake you made, a challenge you overcame, a lesson you learned. These are the stories that create connection, because when people hear a story that feels real, they see themselves in it, they relate to it, they internalize it. The key to telling a great story is vivid detail. People don't connect with vague, generic stories. They connect with specific sensory details. Instead of saying, "I was really nervous before my speech," paint the picture. Describe how your hands were shaking, how your heartbeat was pounding in your ears, how the room felt 10 times bigger than it actually was. The more visual and sensory details you include, the more immersive the story becomes. The goal is to make people feel like they are experiencing the moment with you. Another critical element of storytelling is structure. A great story has a beginning, middle, and end. It has tension, conflict, and resolution. It takes the audience on a journey. The best way to structure a story is to use the classic framework: situation, struggle, solution. Start with a situation people can relate to. Introduce a struggle that creates tension, and then bring the resolution that delivers the lesson. This structure keeps people engaged because it follows the natural arc of human experience. The struggle is what makes a story compelling. Without conflict, there's no emotional investment. Think about every great movie, book, or speech you've ever heard. The part that grips you is always the challenge, the obstacle, the moment of doubt. That's because struggle creates suspense. It makes people want to know what happens next. If your story doesn't have a struggle, it's just a list of events. It doesn't pull people in. But if you can show the hardship, the tension, the uncertainty, you make people feel something real. One of the most powerful techniques in storytelling is the hero's transformation. People don't just care about what happened, they care about how it changed you. They want to see growth. They want to see how the experience shaped you, what you learned from it, and how it applies to them. If you tell a story, but there's no transformation, it falls flat. But if you show how the challenge turned into wisdom, people walk away with something they can use in their own lives. Storytelling is also about delivery. A great story can be ruined by bad delivery. If you rush through it, if you don't emphasize the right moments, if you tell it without emotion, it loses its power. But when you slow down at key moments, when you let emotions come through, when you use pauses to create impact, the story comes alive. Your tone, your facial expressions, and your body language all play a role in making a story feel real. Storytelling isn't just a tool for entertainment, it's a tool for influence. The best leaders, the best speakers, the best communicators, they all use stories to move people. Data might inform, logic might convince, but stories change people's beliefs and behaviors. A well-told story has the power to inspire action, to shift perspectives, and to make an idea impossible to ignore. Every time you speak, you have a choice. You can present facts, make arguments, and hope people stay interested, or you can tell a story, one that makes them feel, one that makes them care, one that stays with them long after you've finished speaking, because at the end of the day, the words people remember are not the ones they hear, they're the ones they feel. The greatest speakers in the world aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who move people the most. They use silence as a weapon to create impact. They don't speak to impress. They speak to serve. They tell stories that resonate, stories that make people feel. They bring energy, authenticity, and clarity every time they open their mouths. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what you say, it's about what people remember, it's about what people feel, it's about what people do after they hear you. So if you want to speak in a way that makes people listen, if you want to command attention, create real influence, and leave an unforgettable impact, you have to go beyond just words. You have to bring emotion, energy, and purpose. And if you got value from this, if this hit you in any way, don't just keep it to yourself. Share this, apply it, and step into your power. This is Tony Robbins Track, and I'll see you next time.